Greetings and welcome to everybody in 2023 here. Tonight I'd like to call this meeting of the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners to order. And welcome again all of you that are here. Tonight our invocation is going to be given by Reverend Peter Dodge from the Reedsville Alliance Church. I believe that's right out on Freeway Drive, easy to get to.
Right across from the Mexican restaurant.
So if you'd all rise and remain standing after the invocation for our pledge.
Holy God and gracious Father, we stand here tonight as a grateful people, thankful to you for a new day that we woke up in today with health and strength in our bodies. We thank you for a new year that you have given to us to kind of start over again and refresh. And we thank you, Father, most of all, for the new hearts that you have placed inside of us through your Son, Jesus. We give you thanks on this night for all of the ways in which you continue to be good to us, causing the sun to rise and the rain to come in its time and fruit to grow in its season. We thank you for this assembly of commissioners before us tonight and how you have given them wisdom and a passion to lead our community and to lead our county. You've established these men to do righteously and justly for the people, and we thank you for them. We ask this evening, Lord, that you would fill these men again afresh with your grace, with your wisdom, with your knowledge. Strengthen them in their inner being to govern with grace and with mercy, to administrate with wisdom. Keep them, Lord, from temptations that would sidetrack them. Protect them from those who would seek to distract them or take advantage, and give to them, everyone, a willing and a compassionate heart to serve this community for the good of others and for your glory, O God. May your truth prevail in this place tonight, and may virtue be practiced by all. May your unity and your harmony crown our heads, and may equity be our refrain. In the name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Young lady, I think this is for you now.
I want to recognize Commissioner Houston Barrow, who's going to introduce the leader of our Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, so tonight we have Miss Avery Faust, 6 years old, from Wentworth Elementary. Avery, thank you for coming out. And if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag, United States and America, and to the republic in which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for all. Have a great day.
House, we appreciate that. And we hope your school year is going well over at Wentworth Elementary. I'd like to recognize Lance Metzler, our county manager, who is going to read a resolution honoring the hospice of Rockingham County.
Yes, sir. Resolution honoring hospice of Rockingham County as one of the top-ranked places to work in health care. Whereas Hospice of Rockingham County is a nonprofit care provider that has been delivering palliative care for patients who have serious illnesses and hospice care for patients who are terminally ill since 1987. And whereas in the May 14, 2022 edition of Modern Healthcare, Hospice of Rockingham County was named its national list of the top 150 organizations that have been designated as the best places to work in healthcare for 2022. And whereas the 150 best places to work were divided in two categories, with 75 being chosen in the provider insurer category and 75 in the vendor supplier category. And whereas subsequently in October, Modern Healthcare published their official ranking of the 150 best places to work, and Hospice of Rockingham County ranked 10th out of the 75 facilities in the provider insurer category. And whereas Modern Healthcare's best places to work application process looks at numerous areas to assess workplace satisfaction, including but not limited to turnover rate, recruiting practices, benefit programs, promotion of health, work-life balance, employee recognition and or appreciation programs, extensive anonymous employee surveys, organization leadership, and activities implemented to relieve stress in employees. And whereas according to Modern Healthcare, the recognition program honors organizations that empower employees to provide patients and customers with the best possible care, products, and services, and recognizes organizations that have focused significant resources and energy to support their staff throughout these especially challenging times. And whereas in response to the award, Lynn Flanagan, Hospice of Rockingham County's president and CEO, stated this was our first attempt at Modern Healthcare's best places to work and to make our debut ranked 10th among providers nationwide is thrilling. To be recognized alongside healthcare providers from across the country, many of whom are multi-year winners, is such an honor. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners that Hospice of Rockingham County be honored for this top-ranking recognition for its focus on its core values of integrity, respect, compassion, teamwork, communication, and innovation. This, the third day of January 2023. Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept this resolution.
Motion made. And seconded by Commissioner Kevin. Flavel, I think a lot of people have recognized the contribution of hospice for quite some time. I know I have. So if you'd be kind enough to bring your team up here, we're going to come down here, and the county manager is going to present you a copy of that resolution, and it's a photo op for whoever cares.
There we go. Appreciate it.
We're going to get somewhere in the back. And all that you just heard is included on this piece of paper and this plaque. But I think of far more importance, at least to me, for folks that I've known that have taken advantage of your services, is the extreme contribution and how much you do to alleviate suffering of not only the individuals involved but their families. So thank you, Flavel, and to know that to be recognized nationally like this is quite an award. So you get the plaque and your chance to speak.
Well, thank you all so much, and this is such a nice follow-up to a few months ago. We were here to tell you that we had been chosen as one of the best places to work in healthcare, but we were able to travel to Nashville in September, and as you heard read, we are actually ranked number 10 for best places to work in healthcare in the country. So to have that here in Rockingham County is pretty awesome. We are very proud of that, and we appreciate the recognition here tonight. We have got such an awesome, talented team at Hospice of Rockingham County. I know I'm a little bit biased. I'm a whole lot biased, but it's true. And there's just such a correlation that we recognize between well cared for, encouraged, supported employees and the high quality patient care that they deliver. So I'm hopeful that in a few more months, we'll tell you that we're number 9. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Actually, look at you to come to this side.
Congratulations. 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 Congratulations.
Tell you, don't know what they do to you, need them.
Oh, gosh. My mom went through hospice. Oh, they really? Yeah.
Mother and cat passed away.
Is he still in hospice?
Yeah, he's day by day.
Wow.
Before you get going here, Commissioner Berger has a few words he'd like to add to our comments.
Well, I mentioned it last time you were here, and I think it's important for people at home to realize that when you need care and that you get approached about hospice care, that there's a lot of different hospices out there, but y'all are based in Rockingham County, so if you mention hospice in some places, they may not refer the patient directly to Hospice of Rockingham County. And I think it's important for the people at home to realize that. If you want to have the care of the place here in the county that's recognized nationally, that you have to actually request Hospice of Rockingham County. And I just wanted to make sure that the people at home were aware of that. I know that's something that a lot of people don't realize. But thank you for everything that you do. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Commissioner Berger. Gentlemen, you've had the agenda for 10 days or so now, a chance to look at it. I'm ready to consider a motion concerning tonight's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve tonight's agenda.
I believe there are 2 adjustments.
There are. Go ahead, Mr. Berger.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just want to make sure that we make those adjustments to the agenda. One's item 10 and then 11B. I believe everybody was okay moving those under consent.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hall's
Motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. Agenda is approved. You've also had the consent agenda, and the consent agenda consistently consists of non-controversial items. However, if any of you here or within the sound of my voice have a question about them, please contact our county manager, Lance Metzler, and he will clarify that and answer your questions. That said, any adjustments or motions concerning the consent agenda?
Motion to approve items under the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. Public comment. We have 2 people signed up for public comment, and before I call you up, I'd like to ask the county manager if he would.
Yes, sir. The public comment period should be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to present any matter pertaining to county business or items on the Board of Commissioners' agenda. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the Board of Commissioners and not to the staff, the audience, or media. The chairperson shall open the public comment period. Any speaker who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and not speak from his or her seat. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium. Each person shall be allotted 3 minutes. Citizens will be allowed to yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing one more attendee's time. This will allow no more than 6 minutes. Your time will be displayed on the monitor in front of you. The clock will start with 3 minutes. Unless yielded time to 6 minutes, you will hear a beep at 1 minute to alert you to wrap up your comments. If you are to yield your time or time is yielded to you, then please let the chairperson know in advance. Speakers appearing for the Board of Commissioners will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, or use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person or which, when directed at a public official, is not related to his or her official capacities. The Board of Commissioners may accept written comments in lieu of oral statements. Written statements can be delivered to the county manager's office. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. 2 people have signed up. Neil Jacques. If you would come forward and state your name and address. I know. I've got you down as the second one. Are you collaborating on this?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to assume you're collaborating. We're going to call it 6 minutes if you need it. So thank you, Neil. And Ann Fish, who most of us know, but would you, for the record, provide your address?
Ann Fish, 331 Wilshire Drive, Eden, 27288.
Thank you very much. You can pull that down if it make you more comfortable.
Neil Jakes, 260 Chinquapin Trail, Reedsville. We're here for the annual Rockingham Countywide Food Drive that will be going into year 13 this year. And I wanted to thank the people in the county, the commissioners, the county manager for the support that we've gotten year after year. So thank you. And I want to tell you a little bit of the numbers from the 2022 drive, if I could. We collected 62,822 pounds of food. We, in addition to that, we had cash donations of $2,440 and in-kind donations of approximately $1,200. Organizations that were particularly generous with the in-kind donations were Lowe's Home Improvement in Mayodan and in Reedsville, Wright Printing in Eden and in Madison, and Blake Dawson, who donated a scale, which was also made life a whole lot easier getting to that 62,000 pounds by having a scale to work with. During this year, we made a couple changes to the charities that we serve, and Ann is going to give you a little flyer that will talk about the charities that we serve. But one is the the Community Crisis Center, which is associated with the Cornerstone Church. And so they've joined us as a new one, and the Reedsville Soup Kitchen, who we had been supporting since the food drive started 13 years ago, is no longer a part of the group. We were collecting small cans, and the Reedsville Soup Kitchen really doesn't have much use for single-serving cans of anything. So. So we've, if the time comes to get back together, we're certainly anxious to do that, but it just wasn't making sense for us to do that. Our food drive this year, you see on the brochure, is February and March. And let me just go through, if I can, the organizations that we are assisting, 8 organizations. The Salvation Army, their pantry in Reedsville, as well as their soup kitchen over in Eden. Men and Women in Christ, their food pantry, and also in Reedsville. And I say they're in Reedsville or Eden or wherever. These organizations generally serve the entire county. I just am talking about where they're centrally located. Cormai, located also in Reedsville. Did I mention Men and Women in Christ? Okay. Also, the Rockingham County Veterans Coalition, which has, of course, their place in Wentworth here. The Cooperative Christian Ministries in Eden, who they've been doing wonderful work as far as food distribution goes for years. And Hands of God in Madison. So these are the 8 organizations that we're providing food and money to as we get that donated. And as I said, I want to thank you folks for the support that you've given us over the years, and look forward to a successful food drive in 2023. And do you have any questions for Ann or me?
No questions, but a comment that your organization is yet another example of the benevolency of the citizens of Rockingham County, and we certainly recognize that and appreciate it. And thank you for what you do and bringing it to the attention of the public.
There are many heartwarming experiences that we have as part of this, and we are fortunate to be able to be part of blessing people's lives. So thank you.
Thank you all. Only names I have for public comment tonight. Public hearing, item 8, Rodney Cates, our Emergency Service Director.
Good evening, gentlemen. With me is Carly Coward. She's the Chief Operating Officer with North State Medical Transport. North State Medical Transport is based out of Raleigh. They've requested a franchise agreement to work from UNC Rockingham Hospital. North State currently has a system-wide agreement with the UNC Health System. They provide non-emergent transport, interfacility transports, and transfers. Most of their operations currently located in Wake County and areas east. They do have operation established in Person County and Vance counties. Their plan is to come to Rockingham County Station 1 ALS truck, advanced life support at UNC Rockingham. Staffing allows 24/7, and they will add to the Rockingham County service based on their call volume as they see how the process works for them. But their request is, this is the first of potentially two public hearings where they are requesting the franchise agreement from the county.
Questions, gentlemen? Well, I might mention to you, Carly, a similar situation arose about 8 years ago, and it wasn't handled well by the county. Rodney, if you could share the benefits to the county of having this service.
Well, they're going to provide non-emergent transport, interfacility transfers. So the way staffing is in the healthcare industry overall, they are an additional resource to move convalescent transports, patients that need to go home, patients that need to go to other hospitals. They will be designated to the UNC Rockingham facility to provide that additional transport service for those citizens.
So you'll be coming back 2 more times, is that correct?
We're going to discuss that potentially. I don't know if we may come back 1 more time. It's typically 2 public hearings.
Well, most of the things I know are that way. Counselor?
They can do this in one of 2 ways. They can have an ordinance, or they can do it by agreement under the statute. And I think what they've got before you now is an agreement. So if they want additional agreements, they can bring that back, or we can prepare an ordinance to be approved at the next meeting, after the public hearing, assuming that you're all going to approve this.
Mr. Manager, your preference?
I would go with council as far as having the public hearing tonight and then taking action on the ordinance at the next meeting.
Okay, so no vote required tonight?
They would have to approve proceeding, correct?
Yes, I think you'd have to approve the agreement, and then we can get the ordinance put together and have you present that at the next meeting.
Pardon my ignorance on the procedures, want to get it right there.
Just for clarification, it was over 11 years ago that they made an error in the ambulance.
Well, I feel like that one cost.
Yes.
It wasn't you, Lance, I know that.
I just want to make that clarification. Because
Now the
Commissioner
whole
Berger
world
looked at me funny.
knows
So.
It wasn't you. Chance for further question, gentlemen. In lieu of that, a motion to approve moving forward with this.
I make a motion to approve.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by the sound of aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay. Thank you. We look forward to having you back.
Public hearing on it next time.
Do we have to have a public hearing next time, too?
Item 9,
Yeah.
our astute Health and Human Services DSS Director. Ms. Farrell, Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Happy New Year, gentlemen. Thank you for entertaining me tonight with my request for a detective investigator. You have received some information. I've been working very closely with the county manager, Mr. Metzler, trying to kind of add security into our social work services in particular. So the information you received is a request to utilize $67,450.46 along with $3,201 for personnel expenses to hire an investigator. The funds that would be used are from an MOU that is to be used towards foster care and child welfare services. As you guys know, we've had a significant increase in our child welfare services over the last few years. The pandemic didn't help, but we are also in an opioid epidemic and other types of substance use issues going on. We have in the past actually tried to hire security at our organization and have not been able to do so. We actually put RFPs out, did not get any requests but one when we attempted to hire that or contract with that individual company. They never even showed up. So this has been an ongoing thing that we've been working on for quite a few years. Back in the spring, when I met with Mr. Metzler, we talked about trying to get private security again. I reached out to numerous companies to see what their services would be and how we could contract with them. I got 2 phone calls back out of about 5. And one in particular gave me an estimate back for a little over $80,000 a year. This particular security agency would have a person on site. They would be there kind of as a visual kind of deterrent. They would walk around the building. They would be outside walking the parking lot. However, their services would be very limited. Some of the things that we need is for an officer to kind of be with our staff, particularly when we have removals or when we have parents who are coming in for court-ordered visits with their children. Sometimes those parents can get a little aggressive, a little assertive with our staff, and we have to call the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Page is here tonight in case he would like to add anything to that. So we are seeing kind of an uptick in assaults and aggressiveness towards our social work staff in particular. Just this past year, we've had a staff assaulted, and then we've had another staff who was actually run off the road. So I think that we're at a point where we've really got to kind of think about the safety of our staff. And then also, as we're working with children and vulnerable adults, we need to be thinking about them as well. This is work that has to be done. We are mandated. This is a federal requirement. So I would like to try to add some safety in for our staff for the future so that we don't have any further situations. Let's see. This person, if you're agreeable for allowing us to hire an investigator, would be at the Veterans and Family Services building. They would have an office there, and they would work very closely with our staff. One of the things that I did some research on today with the help of Kathy Murray, our services program manager, was to see how many times we actually kind of refer things over to law enforcement for investigation. We had over 80 referrals just this past year for investigations. So this is a person who's going to remain very busy. This person, when they get these referrals for any kind of criminal activity or other types of things they need to investigate, will have to investigate those. I think that would be a very efficient way of handling things where you have that one officer working with our staff, so you don't have this crisscross with different detectives and different things happening. I also think it would be very helpful to the Sheriff's Department. It would free up some time for other detectives to work on other things other than our cases. So we're trying to streamline things. I think it would also improve our communication with our district attorney's office as well, as we're working more collaboratively as a team. The other concern that we have is the children that we have in care. We're having a lot of older children come into care. A lot of these children have significant behavioral health needs. I can tell you that Mr. Metzler and I have many conversations with children who are aggressive, combative, that are waiting for intensive mental health services that are not within our control. And so we wait and wait. Sometimes we have to wait overnight at our facility, sometimes at the sheriff's office, and then we converted the old detective's house into an actual place to stay with children because we're having to wait so long for these children to get intensive or residential mental health services. Just this past year, we've had 12 nights where we've had to have a law enforcement officer with our staff due to aggressive children having to spend the night. So you can see where the need is starting to increase. We have been talking with the Sheriff's Department about assistance when we have to transport these children. When we are finally able to get a residential facility that is a higher level of mental health care, we have to transport these children because they are in our care and custody. However, with them being very aggressive, it is a risk to our staff. So I've been working with Colonel Farah with the Sheriff's Department. We're working on a process of getting a court order that allows that officer to be with our staff so that we can have a little bit more security. 9 times out of 10, when we have law enforcement present either in the building, as we experienced today, it was very helpful to have the code enforcement officers walking through. Today was the first day of LEAP. It de-escalates. It makes people kind of think twice about acting up. So I feel that this would be a good investment. Again, we're not using county funds, we're using funds that are available for this purpose, for foster care. And my request is that we go ahead and try this and see how it works.
You made a statement that was different from our 70,000 figure. 67,000 is the annual cost. And I was just clarifying that for my colleagues, that 67 is the correct figure.
It's the $67,450 is the actual position cost, and then you add in the $3,201 for any kind of training, if they need a weapon, if they need materials, so that the total cost would be the $70,000 plus.
Thank you. Gentlemen, questions?
I've got a couple. Ms. Farrell, I think you and I have had discussions about adding positions halfway through the year in the past, and that's always, I guess, a concern because it's outside the budget time. Even if the money's paid for with other dollars, we're still creating a position outside the budget time. So I guess my main question here is, with the funding being MOU funds, is there access to the same source of funds moving forward in the future to fund this position in
Subsequent years?
Subsequent, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yes, sir.
Subsequent years, so that we're not looking for other dollars once we create a position.
Yes. When I started researching this back in the spring, when we were in the process of developing the budget, it was quite painful actually researching this and reaching out to those security companies. And that's when I went to Mr. Metzler, because I knew budget was coming up and we hadn't added it in, but we really wanted to get some solid figures about what the cost would be and then what services they would be able to offer. I think one of the things that was pretty frustrating for me when I was talking to some of these professional security companies is they just didn't want to work with us. They're really geared towards wanting to work in hospitals in areas where there is a very controlled setting. The kind of work that we do when we're going out in the field, that there's that unpredictability, is a huge liability. And they don't like working in that type of environment. So a lot of them, I think, is one of the reasons why they didn't return my call. So this was not something that I've just kind of made up in the last couple of months to do. This has been something I've been working on for a while. It's just been a very slow process getting folks to return calls and then having those conversations with them, and then finally getting a few that actually gave me some quotes. And then when I sat down with the county manager, and he was like, well, we can do better internally with the cost, and we'll get a better service, and we'll create efficiencies. As to your question of funding, we have funding available in that line item, and that funding shall be there for a while. I think the bigger concern I have is we've got to get a mental health system that, for children in particular, who need enhanced mental health or chronic conditions, we need more of those services in our state. And this is a statewide issue. It's not just in Rockingham County. It is not just a Sand Hills issue. It is a policy issue that's really got to be worked on at the state level.
Right, and very familiar with that, very familiar with things happening and proper protocol not being followed when in Raleigh, certain hospitals close floors without notifying people. I think we've run into that before.
Absolutely.
But yes, I certainly appreciate your information. I don't have any further questions. I was just worried about subsequent funding. So.
As we all are.
Just for clarification, what is the subsequent funding stream that you were referring to?
It's funding that we received from our previous LME MCO that has a very specific purpose, and I am taking those particular funds and utilizing it for child welfare, for foster care, because these are the children and the families that we are intensely working with.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, how long will we be receiving what you're referring to?
Actually, we've got a lump sum. It is in a budget line item, and it should be there for quite a while.
Yeah, we got about $1 million from Cardinal, and so that those funds are specifically used, so that, like she said, those funds will be there for a while.
Thank you.
To both of your concerns, Sand Hills is aware of this. And they are also aware that this will be an expectation for funding in the future. That's not a guarantee that it's coming, but right now it's on the books. A couple of quick questions. You talked about 80 cases. About how long does each case last?
Great question. It depends on what is being investigated.
I realize they're all different.
More of a law enforcement question than a social work question. On the social work side, we can have an investigation open and have to have it closed within 45 days or so. Law enforcement, on the other hand, when they have a criminal investigation, particularly if it's a sexual assault, domestic violence, et cetera, it could take them a few months. We've had exploitation cases that have taken 6 months. So it depends on what is actually being investigated.
Yeah, and you probably would be conducting several at the same time, correct?
Absolutely.
Another question. Is this part of the Rockingham County Sheriff's Department?
So the money's going to be in our budget. The officer will be in our budget. He will sit in our building, but of course, we have a partnership with the Sheriff's Department. So he is an officer with the sheriff.
That's correct. Under memorandum of understanding, we would be operating with the social services.
You answered my question. You were talking about the previous investigator walking around. Will this gentleman be in uniform?
He will be a detective, so they
I would
have their.
expect to be a detective, plainclothes, even how we're dressed right today.
But identifiable to potential malcreants.
If you have a gun on, you're showing a badge.
Thank you. Further questions, gentlemen? We would need a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
And seconded. Further discussion here, none. All in favor indicate by the sound of aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay. That is approved. Item 2.
If you would like for me to handle this, and apologies on my behalf, this should have probably been put under consent agenda because this is just house cleaning. It's basically the Department of Justice is requiring us to establish, to support a resolution establishing strategies to be able to use the MOU funds and also to set up a special fund for that. So my apologies on that, but you would have to act on that since it wasn't put in the under the change in the agenda.
In essence, we need to approve or disapprove the attached ordinance.
Well, the resolution.
Resolution.
To help with the explanation of that, every time that we're going to utilize the opioid settlement funds, we have to identify the dollars that are going to be utilized and for what section of the opioid agreement. So this is the first step. We've already identified that we're going to have a human services planner evaluator that is going to be kind of overseeing the opioid settlement and the process that we're going to be going through with the assessment, identifying those gaps, and getting some very comprehensive services, I hope, in Rockingham County. And so this part is we had to put the funds in there, identify that that's what they're going to be used for, and then you have to approve it. Anytime that we're going to be pulling those opioid funds from that line that has been specifically set up as required, we will have to come back and add to this settlement memorandum or resolution.
Well, notwithstanding that we could have put this under consent, it is in open session, so I would ask if there are comments, questions, or a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to approve.
Motion made. Second. And seconded. Further discussion here, none. All in favor indicate by the sound of aye. Aye. Thank you, Mrs. Farrell.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item 10 was one of those items removed early in our agenda. Happy to recognize Captain Brown. Do you prefer Wendell or Wendell?
Oh, Wendell, I'm not rich yet.
Okay.
2 Browns for the price of 1 right here.
Yes.
2 Captain Browns.
Take it you're not brother and sister.
We good.
We are.
A lot older.
We're very close, yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you all having me. Basically here to
try and do something about morale in the jail. Over the past couple years, we've lost a lot of officers. It's due to just having to work so hard because we're so short. Officers are getting burnt out. So what I'm proposing is to give them a $100 shift bonus to come in and work on a shift other than their own. They would have to work a 12-hour shift in order to receive the extra $100. And I also propose that this money come from lapsed salaries.
Mr. Manager?
It would actually be a total, it's $100, but to make it $100 for the employee, it would be $141 per person. And they were down, the sheriff and I talked about it, they were down, I think 1.13. I don't know how many you're down now, but they're positions like this with EMS, with law enforcement, it's a very difficult time.
When we're in a critical situation and we drop below a certain number, we have to call people in, and this would help us on that call in, getting those staff to help back up the people that need the support. Again, we're processing, we're trying to bring people on board and hire, but in the meantime, we still got to run the jail and provide a safe, secure facility. And this will help us to do that, but also to give incentive for those persons to come back in and help us when we were short.
And what we propose is to run it for a 3-month period. If it works, great, it's doing its job. If it doesn't, then we'll need to punt and figure out another strategy.
And if we get our manpower up, then we can back away from this. But this is kind of a temporary relief.
Gentlemen, questions?
Just real brief, I know, if I remember right, when we had the presentation on EMS, I believe they had polled some of the workers beforehand, and they felt like this would help towards solving the problem. I'm assuming that y'all have polled some of staff, and they're buying into this as a potential solution.
I think it'll be very receptive based on what I understand.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I guess it's probably just more of a comment, but I know that, when we did this with EMS, it was part of a multifaceted solution with the ENT Academy and other things that we're trying to do to help bring people on board. Is there any other strategy you guys have for trying to bring people into the detention center other than just this bonus system?
Well, we are doing a recruiting process. That's ongoing 365 days a year. We're continually recruiting and looking for some good qualified candidates to work in the facility. We'll go to any location where where they're having job opportunities, job fairs. We do attend and we do go. But again, at the end of the day, if I drop below a certain level, the last thing I want to do is shut a pod down, because that will cost a lot of money, and it's a lot cheaper to do this and during this temporary side until we get our manning up, then to drop back. The last thing I want to do is shut a pod down.
Thank you.
Other questions?
No, I would just encourage there to be continued communication with Mr. Metzler to try to, I think what Commissioner Barrow and myself are getting at is just making sure we're continuing to brainstorm and try to find some solutions. And we appreciate you bringing this to us, but we just want to make sure that what we do at this level, we've got some buy-in already from staff that this will help in the short term, and then continuing to look for solutions moving forward.
We appreciate the consideration of this.
Well, I'm supportive because considering some safety aspects that you've experienced in the jail, that we need to be doing something, so let's hope it's sufficient. Further questions, comments? Hearing none, we would accept a motion to approve this request. Moved?
Make a second.
And seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by the sound of aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay. Thank you, Captain Brown, and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Metzler.
Mr. Commissioner, new business.
No, sir. I was promoted. Thank you.
Then we're going to move to item 13. Lucky 13 there for Mr. Barrow. Glad to have you back from your vacation.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Only comments I have for this evening, back on December the 16th, I had the opportunity to attend the first ever EMT Academy. We had 8 graduates. They all passed with 100% pass rate on the first attempt, and this is part of that multifaceted strategy that we were talking about for trying to help get the numbers up for the emergency services. So thank you very much to everybody who attended that. I look forward to seeing that continue to be successful. My only other comment, Mr. Chair, I've had some concerns about operations with the landfill. I think there's maybe some misunderstanding about what's happening with the landfill. Back in September of last year, the previous iteration of the board accepted a bid from Wall Recycling. Wall Recycling took over contracting the work to the landfill for a short-term contract. This is just for maintenance, management, and operations. The county did not sell the landfill, so just wanted to clear up that. Thank you.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Mr.
Stand by one.
Okay.
I know you got something special for, we'll start with Commissioner Berger.
Thank you. There's seems to be too often, but we're always losing people in the community that mean a lot to a lot of people, and we certainly, since our last meeting, had someone that devoted their life to service that passed unexpectedly, and that's Mr. Matt Hall. So we are forever grateful for the service that he gave to the community, and continued thoughts and prayers for his family, friends, and colleagues. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Berger. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We certainly enjoyed having Hospice of Rockingham County here tonight, and honored to get to talk with them and let the community know what a great organization there is right here in this community. Additionally, I'd also like to thank Sheriff Sam Page for being here, he and his staff, and Madison Alderman Mickey Silvers was in attendance tonight, so we appreciate you folks being here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We appreciate that, all the comments. I'd like to remind the attendees and those listening in that this is the year of the trail. And Rockingham County is particularly blessed with trails in the east, in the west, in the north. Several different trails, and we're enlarging our recreation facility in the west, what's not officially but being called the Blues Park area. And I would encourage the community at large to take advantage of that. But in addition to the year of the trail, and especially since this county has such a positive reputation as being generous and benevolent, and I hope it's the year of the good neighbor. So in 2023, if you can look out there and look for opportunities to be that good neighbor, I think that will only enhance the life here in Rockingham County for all of us. That said, consider no additional business, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Recess.
They're pointing out that this will be a recess meeting. Can we have a motion to recess?
I think if you recess, you got to state a date and a time.
Well, Mr. Manager.
The next meeting would be the 17th. That's the day after Martin Luther King, so that would be adjourned, wouldn't we? We adjourn?
Yeah.
So I guess we'd recess the next meeting then.
Yeah, because that's when you're right, because that's where the budget works. See, adjourn this one, then we recess that one to the budget. Yes, sir, thank you.
Apologize.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, those opposed by nay.